Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. I've got my shaders on, the Minecraft world is looking extra cozy tonight, and I'm glad you're here. We've got some absolute madness to unravel. The kind of drama that feels too twisted to be real, but somehow still hits way too close to home. As always, before we begin, thank you for watching my videos. We have now passed an additional 140 subscribers since the day that I started these videos. Seeing you guys commenting on my videos really keep me motivated and going. But now grab a blanket, settle in, and let's judge some people together, because you won't believe this story. It's nuts. A girlfriend finds out her boyfriend cheated, so she starts an OnlyFans. Not to get even, but to ruin him publicly. And the best part? He handed her the tools. He just didn't know she'd weaponize them with precision. They always think they're the mastermind, until the internet gets involved. And if you think this story is bad, just wait until we hit the Tinder husband reveal in the next one. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's start where the chaos begins, with one girl, one phone, and a revenge plan that made her ex go very quiet. I met Marissa during one of those chaotic, too loud house parties where the music is bad, but the lighting makes everyone look kind of attractive. She was leaning against the kitchen counter, sipping something blue out of a solo cup, and giving off the kind of calm that cuts through the chaos. We started talking, and within 10 minutes I knew I liked her. Smart, funny, sharp in that I see through your BS kind of way, which in hindsight should have scared me more than it did. We started dating a couple weeks later. Things moved fast, like stay over 3 nights a week fast. She wasn't clingy, just present. She actually listened when I talked, remembered dumb little things I said, laughed at my jokes like they were original. I'd had flings before, but this was different. So obviously I did what any 23-year-old idiot with too much ego and zero foresight would do. I cheated on her, not with a stranger, not even a random girl from work. With her best friend Tara, the one person she told me had been with her through everything. The one who helped her move into her first apartment, stayed up all night with her after her parents' divorce, and had literally held her hair back after her 21st birthday. That Tara. In my mind, it wasn't really cheating. It was a one-time mistake. I even convinced myself it didn't count because we didn't go all the way. We just kissed, and then kissed again, and then, escalated from there. It was messy, dumb, selfish. But I told myself Marissa would never find out. Tara had just as much to lose, right? Wrong. After it happened, Tara texted me once. "We're never talking about this again." Cool, fine by me. I went back to my normal routine like nothing had happened. Marissa was still the same, sweet, chill, funny. She didn't act different, didn't pick fights, didn't snoop through my phone. Honestly, she seemed even more affectionate. Started dressing up more when we went out. New lingerie, more makeup. I figured maybe she was just feeling herself lately, or maybe my guilt was messing with my head. Either way, I kept my mouth shut and prayed to whatever petty god governs cheating boyfriends that the truth would stay buried. Then came the first leak. It started with a DM from my coworker, Ryan, on a random Tuesday morning. "Bro, is this you?" Attached was a link to a Reddit thread, not even a scandalous one, just a meme page. Someone had screenshotted a thumbnail from an OnlyFans profile. The title? Cheating on me was his first mistake. Meet Jake, the ex who inspired this series. And yeah, that's my name. The thumbnail showed a blurry but very recognizable screenshot of my old texts. Stuff like, "She'll never find out, trust me. You're hotter anyway." And "She's too sweet to even suspect anything." My stomach dropped through the floor. I clicked the link to the actual page. Front and center? Marissa. Not grainy selfies, not sketchy mirror pics. I'm talking full-blown professional photo shoots. She looks stunning. And I don't mean just hot, I mean expensive. Tastefully shot, powerfully posed. The bio read, "Cheated on by my ex and his secret hookup. I decided to profit. He made the betrayal. I'm making the money." It already had thousands of likes. Thousands. I tried to message her. No answer. I tried calling Tara. She picked up. I went in immediately. "What the hell is this? You're in some of those pictures." "You took them?" Dead silence for a beat. Then Tara, sounding way too calm, said, "Yeah, I shot them. And I started stammering something about betrayal, about going public, about how she knew this would hurt me. That's when she laughed. Full, unbothered laugh. Then she hung up. I wish I could say I played it cool after that, but I didn't. I spiraled. My phone didn't stop buzzing for 3 days. People from high school, guys I hadn't talked to since college. Even my aunt sent me a cryptic thinking of you text that made me want to walk into the ocean. Then came the memes. Someone made a TikTok series doing dramatic readings of my cheating texts over sad piano music. Another person remixed them into a rap. One clip got 2.3 million views in a day. My manager at work pulled me aside and said, "We're not technically allowed to ask what's happening in your personal life, but it's distracting." I swear to God, even DoorDash drivers were giving me side eyes. And you know what Marissa did through all of this? Nothing. Not a single public statement, no videos, no interviews. Just kept posting on her account. Subtly, elegantly, killing me with calm. By week 2, she had over 150,000 followers. She started adding storytime videos, not naming me, just alluding. Viewers ate it up. She was doing lingerie hauls, Q&As, even motivational content about rebuilding your self-worth after betrayal. Every comment was a sea of heart emojis and queens and "he didn't deserve yous." And then, just when I thought it couldn't get worse, she dropped the bomb. A new video. Marissa, sitting in a sunlit bedroom, tasteful music. The caption, "Let's talk about who took all these photos." Cut to Tara, waving at the camera. Tara looks dead in the lens and says, "Hi, I'm the best friend he cheated on her with, but I'm also the one who helped her build this empire. Don't get it twisted. Women supporting women is revenge." If you've made it this far into the chaos, you're as addicted to Reddit drama as I am. Make sure to subscribe and tell me where you're watching from. But don't cheat while you type. Back to it. The backlash after that video, nuclear. People were tagging my job. My cousin's wedding uninvited me. Someone added my name to Urban Dictionary under dumbest man alive. But here's what really broke me. Marissa released a line of merch, t-shirts, phone cases, even mugs, with screenshots of my cheating texts printed on them. They sold out in 48 hours. She donated half the proceeds to a local women's shelter. The other half, she used to pay off her student loans. The part that still haunts me, she never raised her voice, never posted a messy breakdown, never called me names. She just won. And now every time someone brings up revenge or OnlyFans or even blue solo cups, I think about that moment at the party when I met a girl who saw through my BS. I should have run the other way. But cheating doesn't just ruin relationships. Sometimes it destroys families. Our second story is a messy one. My husband and I used to share everything. Grocery lists, calendars, passwords, even the same Apple ID across all our devices. It was just easier that way, or at least that's what I thought back when I still trusted him. We'd been married for 6 years. Not perfect, but we were solid. Or so I believed. We had our routines, Saturday morning pancakes, Sunday night Netflix, midweek grocery runs, and we shared an iPad that mostly sat in the kitchen, used for recipes or the occasional YouTube spiral while cooking. That little iPad, it's what blew everything up. One night I was making dinner, stirring a pot of pasta, when a notification popped up on the iPad next to me. "You have a new match." I blinked. Then came another. "Amanda, 29, likes you." Tinder. I stared at it like it was some kind of weird glitch. My first instinct was to assume it was old. Maybe something from years ago that never got deleted. But then I swiped down and saw more. Message previews, hearts, photos. And then I saw his profile. My husband. Shirtless gym selfie. The same smirk I've seen 100 times when he's trying to be cute. Bio. Just looking for something casual. No drama. He was actively swiping. Actively matching. On our shared iPad. At first I just froze. You know that weird numb feeling when your brain can't quite catch up to what your eyes are seeing? Yeah. That. I took a photo of the screen, backed up some messages and closed the app. Didn't say a word to him that night. Didn't eat dinner either. The next day I asked him casually, too casually probably, if he still had his old Tinder account. He looked at me over his coffee and laughed. "Oh man, from way back. I think it's still out there, but I haven't touched it in years." "Why?" I shrugged. "Just curious." Someone mentioned they saw you on there. He waved it off. It's probably old data or something. You know how those apps are, right? Sure. Old data. From 2 hours ago. And here's where it gets absurd. Instead of confronting him right away, I did something I didn't even know I was capable of. I made a fake Tinder account. I named her Bree. Blonde, witty, flirty. No photos of me, obviously. Just random pics pulled from a model's old Instagram page. Nothing too glamorous, just enough to look real. I swiped until I found him. And surprise, surprise, he swiped right on Bree within minutes. The conversation started off light. He said he worked in consulting, which I guess is cheater speak for don't ask too many questions. He told Bree he was kind of stuck in his marriage, but looking for connection. Said I was cold, that we hadn't been intimate in months. Lie. That he missed being wanted. He said he felt trapped. Yeah, trapped. In a house I pay half the mortgage on, with the woman who folds his laundry and packed his lunch that morning. But that wasn't even the worst part. By day 3, he was sending Bree photos, shirtless, suggestive. He started sexting, full paragraphs, the kind of attention and effort I hadn't seen in years. I'm talking novel-length fantasies, emojis and all. He even said the phrase, I want to feel alive again. Alive? You were snoring on the couch 2 nights ago while I watched Great British Bake Off. Then came the invitation. He wanted to meet Bree. Friday night, 8 p.m., a low-lit bar across town. He said his wife was out of town, which was news to me. Apparently I was imaginary now. I played along, said I'd be there, said I couldn't wait. What happened next? Nobody saw it coming. Friday night rolls around. I put on a simple dress, nothing dramatic. Pulled my hair back, printed every screenshot, every message, every photo he sent. And I invited a very special guest to come with me, his mum. Now let me be clear, she and I were never best friends. We got along, but she always leaned a little too much in her son's direction when arguments happened. Still, she deserved to see what her little golden boy was up to. So when I showed her the screenshots earlier that day, her face drained of colour. She didn't say much, just nodded, then said, I'll be there. So we go. We walk into the bar together, me holding a manila envelope, her holding a purse big enough to carry moral judgment. And there he is, sitting in the corner booth, freshly shaved, button-down shirt, that same dumb smirk. He sees me first. His face twists into this horrified half-smile, like he can't decide whether to lie or sprint. Then he sees his mum. I swear I've never seen a grown man look so small. He actually slid down in the booth like a cartoon character trying to disappear. I walked over, dropped the envelope in front of him and said, Since you like paperwork so much, here's some more. Divorce papers. His mum didn't say a word at first, just stared at him. Then she said, and I quote, You told me she was distant, cold, that she made you miserable. You didn't say you were on Tinder sending pictures of your duck to someone named Bree. He looked like he wanted the floor to open up and swallow him. I honestly hoped it would. He stammered something about mistakes, midlife confusion, how nothing actually happened. But we all knew. He had made something happen. Repeatedly. With effort. So I left. Papers signed. Dignity intact. He ended up moving in with a coworker for a while. Not Bree, because she didn't exist. And his mom stopped defending him. She still texts me on holidays, says I deserved better. She's right. This feels like a deleted scene from a sitcom. Like if The Office tried to do a revenge plotline and accidentally nailed it too hard. But not all cheaters are caught in person. In the next story, one woman used Google Calendar to destroy her lying fiancé. I used to think I was one of the lucky ones. I had a fiancé who remembered anniversaries, made me laugh, brought me coffee without being asked. We were planning a spring wedding, nothing too flashy, just personal. Handwritten vows, a little outdoor venue with twinkle lights, live music. And because we were both busy, I took charge of organizing everything. I'm a planner by nature. Lists, folders, spreadsheets, and most importantly, Google Calendar. He worked a tech job, so we synced our calendars a while ago to keep track of each other's schedules. Dentist appointments, weekend trips, family dinners, all color-coded. It made life easier, or at least it was supposed to. One Tuesday morning, while plugging in wedding dress fittings and tasting appointments, I noticed something odd. A new event popped up in his calendar, Friday through Sunday, labeled Weekend Away, Just Me and Liv. I froze. Liv. My name is not Liv. I stared at it for a solid minute, thinking maybe it was something old, like a joke from years ago that got resynced somehow. Then I checked the timestamp. He had made the event the night before. It was active. It was real. It was happening in 4 days. That emoji? The hard eyes one? Oh, that almost sent me. I clicked into the event. No address, just a note that said private Airbnb. Don't forget wine plus charges. I felt like I'd been kicked in the chest. But I didn't confront him right away. Instead, I opened a new tab, searched Airbnb with the dates, guessed the location based on previous trips we'd taken, found the listing on my second try. Lakeside cabin, 1 bedroom, 2-person hot tub. Reviews said it was perfect for couples. Cute. Then I checked his phone location history. Thank you, Apple Family Sharing. And sure enough, he'd visited the same area a month ago. Suddenly, a lot of his work conferences were starting to make sense. That's when everything unraveled. He had another life, or at least another someone, and from the looks of it, he was balancing both of us without breaking a sweat. I scrolled back through our messages, our photos, our shared memories, trying to find anything that hinted he was pulling this double feature. Nothing. He was careful, polished, too polished. And here's where it gets absurd. Instead of confronting him in person or falling apart, I decided to return the favor, using the very system he forgot we shared. Google Calendar. He might have forgotten I could see his events, but I hadn't. So I did some editing. I clicked into the weekend away, just me and Liv event, and I renamed it. Surprise, I'm Liv's wife now. Then I scrolled to the guest list, because guess what? He had added no privacy settings, no visibility restrictions. It was open to guests, so I added guests, all of them, his co-workers, his boss, his HR rep. I used the internal directory from his company site, found every person on his team, and invited them to the calendar event. Full names, work emails, all marked as going, and then, because I believe in symmetry, I dropped a little comment in the event description. Hi everyone, just wanted to let you know this weekend getaway isn't work-related. It's a romantic trip my fiancé planned with someone who isn't me. If you see him on Monday, maybe ask how his weekend went. I hit save. Google asked if I wanted to notify all guests of the update. I did. The fallout? Glorious. He called me 37 times in 2 hours, left voicemails switching between sobbing, yelling, and weirdly trying to say it was all a misunderstanding. Said I was ruining his life. No, sweetie. You did that the second you scheduled infidelity like it was a team lunch. By noon, I had emails from 3 of his co-workers. One just said, yikes. Another said, you deserve better. The third sent a GIF of a dumpster fire. I appreciated that one. That night, he came home looking like he'd seen a ghost. Tried to act like it wasn't what it looked like. Said Liv was just a friend and that he didn't think it was a big deal. A big deal. Planning a lakeside weekend with a woman who is not your fiancé, while your wedding is literally 3 months away. Imagine being this confidently wrong. He asked if we could talk about it like adults. I handed him a box. Inside were all the wedding binders I'd made, seating charts, menus, my half-written vows. I told him he could keep them, maybe use them for his next proposal. If Liv was into that sort of thing, he didn't have a response. Just stood there like someone had pulled the plug on his brain. Eventually, he mumbled something about needing space and left to stay with a friend. I didn't ask who. I didn't care. I emailed all our vendors the next day, cancelled everything, got most of the deposits back. The venue even waived the fee after I told them the story. The lady on the phone said, "Oh, honey, we've seen things." It was weirdly comforting. His mom reached out a week later, apologizing for his behavior. Said she'd raised him better. I didn't argue. She offered to help with cancellation fees. I declined. Closure doesn't need cash. As for Liv, she actually emailed me. Yep, full-on subject line, I am so sorry. She didn't know he was engaged. He told her I was an ex who couldn't let go. She found out about me when one of his co-workers showed her the calendar invite. According to her, he had told several women he was single. So, apparently, this guy was running a whole Google suite of lies. I don't know what happened to him after that. Don't care. I deleted his contact, blocked his socials, started therapy, bought myself a solo weekend away, same cabin, new memories, and no calendar events to ruin it. And if you thought that was cold, wait until you hear about the roommate who microwaved justice. Living with roommates is like rolling the dice every single day. Sometimes you get lucky, and sometimes you end up with someone who thinks shared kitchen means open buffet. My roommate Casey was one of those people. At first it started small. A missing slice of pizza here, a mysteriously half-empty carton of orange juice there. Annoying but manageable. I figured maybe we were both just being forgetful or accidentally grabbing each other's stuff. But then entire meals started disappearing. Like full-on, prepped, labeled meals that I made for work lunches, gone. I started marking things, sticky notes, Sharpie, passive-aggressive post-its. Nothing worked. One time I left a container of Thai curry in the fridge with my name in all caps. Came home the next day. Container was there, but empty. Like she put it back empty just to mock me. I confronted her once. Tried to be chill about it. Hey, have you been eating my food? Some things have been going missing. She blinked at me like I was accusing her of arson. No, you. I have my own food. Right? Her own food being my lasagna, my chicken stir-fry, and my leftover dumplings from the night before. So I did what any reasonable, frustrated adult would do. I bought a hidden camera, tiny thing, disguised as a plug, motion activated. I set it up in the kitchen, aimed right at the fridge. I figured if she wasn't stealing, no harm done. But if she was, I'd have proof. Cut to 2 days later. I get a notification while I'm at work. Movement in the kitchen. I watch the footage. There she is, Casey walking in, opening the fridge, pulling out my labeled Tupperware like it was part of a cooking show. She microwaves the food, eats half of it straight out of the container, then casually throws the rest away. Like, no shame, no attempt to hide it, not even the decency to pretend it was hers. She even licked the spoon and put it back in the drawer. And here's where it gets absurd. Instead of confronting her with the footage right away, I decided to give her one last chance to make a better choice. I made a fresh batch of lasagna, same container, same spot in the fridge, but this time I added a label in bright red marker. Laxative lasagna, do not eat. Was there an actual laxative in it? Number. Of course not. I'm not trying to poison anyone, but Casey didn't know that. The next morning I left for work and waited, and she took the bait. Footage shows her walking into the kitchen, reading the label. She even laughs at it. She takes the container out, peels off the note, microwaves it, and eats the entire thing. Then she tosses the container and goes about her day, like she didn't just violate every possible roommate boundary. But that wasn't even the worst part. By noon, I started getting texts from people in the building. See, I also posted the camera footage to our apartment's private Facebook group. Nothing graphic, just a short, time-lapsed clip of her taking the lasagna. Captioned it. When your roommate steals your food for the 5th time, you leave her a little surprise. She earned this bathroom experience. Reactions started pouring in. Comments like, she licked the spoon, not the laxative lasagna. Tell me she didn't eat the whole thing. She did, didn't she? Apparently, Casey didn't check Facebook until later that night, because by the time I got home, she was waiting. Arms crossed, face red. You poisoned me. I blinked. There were no laxatives in it, Casey. You just believed there were. And also, you admitted to stealing my food just now. She sputtered, literally sputtered, like a cartoon villain caught in a trap. That's illegal. What is? Cooking my own food and putting a note on it? Or posting video proof that you're a food thief? She didn't have a good answer for that. Just stomped off to her room, slammed the door, and didn't speak to me for 3 days. Naturally, the video got shared again. Someone screenshotted it and posted it to a Reddit thread called Roommates from Hell. It blew up. I even saw a TikTok remix set to dramatic music. Someone tagged me and said, "This is what peak passive-aggressive excellence looks like." Honestly, I can't even be mad. Things went from bad to unhinged after that. Casey started buying weird groceries like tofu and kale, just to prove she was healthy now. She put posters on the fridge about food boundaries. Like, okay, cool. Welcome to the conversation I tried to have 6 months ago. Eventually she moved out. She said it was because she needed a fresh start. But I think she just couldn't handle being the unofficial mascot of Reddit's roommate revenge arc. Fair. I found a new roommate a few weeks later. She brought baked goods on move-in day, and labeled her groceries like a grown adult. The bar was low, but still, progress. I've learned that some people only respect rules when there are consequences or hidden cameras. This feels like a deleted scene from a sitcom, but with worse kitchen hygiene. From explosive dinners to wedding chaos. Next up, a wedding ruined by a single text message. Weddings are supposed to be magic, carefully planned chaos wrapped in lace and overpriced florals. And for my cousin Natalie, everything looked perfect. The venue was a historic chapel, the kind with stained glass and acoustics that make everyone sound angelic. She had the dress, the hair, the something borrowed, the works. The whole thing looked like a Pinterest board come to life. I was one of her bridesmaids, which meant I got a front row seat to what was supposed to be the best day of her life. Key phrase, supposed to be. So picture this, it's 30 minutes before the ceremony. We're in the bridal suite. Natalie's makeup is flawless, veil pinned, bouquet in hand. The photographer is snapping those emotional mom and daughter hugging shots. Everyone's cooing and crying. Then her phone buzzes. Natalie picks it up casually, probably expecting a good luck text, or maybe a sweet I love you from her soon-to-be husband Jason. Instead, she freezes. Her face goes pale. She doesn't say anything right away, just stares at the screen like it personally betrayed her. And then she whispers, "This isn't for me." The text says, "Can't wait to undress you tonight, babe." And the worst part, it was from Jason, the groom, but it wasn't to Natalie. I grabbed the phone from her hand and opened the message thread. He had sent it to someone named Kayla, and judging by the rest of their texts, Kayla wasn't a cousin, or a friend, or a random missend. She was very much the other woman. And here's where it gets absurd. Natalie doesn't cry, doesn't scream, doesn't freak out. She just gets quiet. And that kind of quiet, that's danger. That's not heartbreak. That's calculation. So she looks at us, her bridesmaids, and says, "Don't stop the ceremony." I have something to say. We exchange glances like, okay, is this a forgive him later situation or a burn it all down situation? It was very much the latter. We walk down the aisle like nothing's wrong. Music playing, guests smiling, phones out. Jason is standing at the altar in his tux, beaming like an idiot. He has no idea. Natalie steps up, bouquet in hand, veil perfectly draped. The officiant starts the opening lines. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here." Then Natalie interrupts. "Actually," she says, "before we start, I want to share something." And she pulls out her phone. That's when everything unraveled. She reads the message, word for word, into the microphone. "Can't wait to undress you tonight, babe. Jason." Problem is, she continues, I didn't get that message. Kayla did. You could feel the air leave the room. There's this stunned silence, the kind that only happens when 100 people try to process something awful at the exact same time. And then, gasps, a few scattered laughs. Someone in the back actually said, "No way." Jason tries to interrupt. "Nat, wait." But she's not done. She starts scrolling through the texts, screenshots, timestamps, photos. She reads them like she's narrating an audiobook called How to Humiliate a Cheater in front of everyone he loves. Then she says, "So, before I make vows to someone who can't keep his, I think I'll make a different kind of promise. I promise to love myself enough not to marry a liar, and I promise to never settle for less than I deserve. Again." She drops the phone. Literal mic drop moment. Jason is standing there, red-faced, mouth opening and closing like a broken Pez dispenser. His mom starts crying. His best man looks like he wants to be anywhere else. Natalie turns around and walks back down the aisle. Not slowly, not dramatically, just done. Graceful. Cold. Unbothered. People thought it was part of the ceremony at first, like some weird modern twist. Until someone yelled, "Is this real?" Then it hit them. Yep, real. The next hour was chaos. Guests leaving early. Jason's family in full damage control mode. Bridesmaids passing around champagne like it was a funeral. And Natalie? She ordered fries from the drive-thru in her wedding dress, sat in the back of my car, eating waffle fries and humming along to Lizzo. And honestly, she looked more peaceful than I'd ever seen her. I genuinely thought this couldn't get worse. I was wrong, because Jason later tried to salvage it. 3 days later, he posted on Facebook, "Sometimes we make mistakes, but love means forgiveness." I still believe in what Natalie and I had, and I'm praying she gives me a second chance. Cue the entire comment section roasting him into dust. Someone screenshotted Natalie's wedding dress fries and posted it under his status with the caption, "She already upgraded to carbs and self-respect. Stay losing, Jason." Honestly, you almost have to admire the audacity. He cheated, got caught at the altar, and still thought he had a chance. She didn't respond publicly, just posted a picture of herself in the dress, barefoot, sunlit, wine glass in hand, with the caption, "Free on Saturdays now." And sometimes betrayal comes not from lovers, but your own parents. When I was 13, my parents sat me down and told me they'd started a college fund for me. They made it sound like the ultimate safety net. Every birthday check from grandma, every side hustle dollar my dad made from fixing neighbors' cars, all of it was for your future. They even opened one of those special savings accounts just for it. My name was on it. "We want you to go to college without the stress we had," they said. It meant a lot at the time. Fast forward to my senior year of high school. I got accepted into my dream school. Tuition was steep, but between scholarships and the college fund, it was doable. At least, that's what I thought. One day, I walked into the kitchen and saw my parents grinning like they'd just won the lottery. "We bought something for the whole family," my mom said, her voice syrupy sweet. "Something we can all enjoy." And then she pulled out a photo of a boat, a full-size, shiny, expensive boat. I thought it was a joke at first. Like, haha, we're going on a lake trip this summer or something. Nope. Full purchase. Paid in full. I asked where they got the money. They exchanged a look. Then my dad said, "Well, we used your college fund." But it's an investment. Family memories are priceless. I didn't even respond. My brain just shut down. They used my future to buy a boat we didn't need and definitely couldn't maintain. And they were smiling like they'd done me a favor. That was the first betrayal. The second came when I found out the account they opened in my name wasn't legally mine. They had full access, no restrictions. Every cent I'd been told was safe for college was now floating on a lake an hour away. But here's where it gets absurd. They actually expected me to be excited about it. Like I'd hop on board with my little captain's hat and say, "Thanks for choosing nautical disappointment over my education." Instead, I went quiet. Because I had a plan. Remember that special savings account they opened in my name? Turns out when they bought the boat, they registered the title under mine. As a symbolic gesture, my mom said. "You'll inherit it one day." That day came sooner than she expected. I waited a few weeks, didn't say anything, played along, even went out on the boat once to keep up appearances. Then I went to the DMV, transferred the title legally into my sole ownership. Since it was already in my name on paper, and I was now 18, it took less than an hour. No questions asked, no parental permission needed. Then I listed the boat on Craigslist, priced it at $1, no typo, $1. Some guy named Rick picked it up within 2 days. He said, "What's the catch?" I smiled and said, "Just promise me you'll sail it far away." But that wasn't even the worst part. After the sale, I mailed my parents the bill of sale and the tax documents. You know, the ones that prove you profited from an asset transfer and now owe the IRS? Yeah, I sent those. They called me furious, screaming, demanding I undo it. Saying I'd stolen from them, I said, "No, I just sold what was already mine. You should have read the paperwork you signed when you gifted it to me." They tried to guilt trip me. My mom even fake cried about betraying the family. I asked her how she thinks I felt when they stole my entire education and handed it to a used boat dealer. And suddenly, the whole plan fell apart. They tried to call the police. Didn't go anywhere. They called the guy who bought the boat. He already resold it. They threatened to sue me. I offered to forward them every receipt and contract they themselves had signed. Silence. The last message I got from my mom was a text that said, "You've changed." Yeah, I had. College still wasn't cheap, but I got more financial aid once I proved I had no parental support. I picked up part-time jobs, roomed with 3 strangers and ate a lot of dollar ramen, but I graduated. Debt wasn't fun, but I earned every piece of that diploma. And I'll tell you what, it felt better than any boat ride. This feels like a deleted scene from a sitcom. If the sitcom were called Parents Behaving Badly. Well, that was petty, But wait till you hear how one woman weaponized a baby shower. I didn't think anything could surprise me in that office anymore. Not after 5 years of passive-aggressive post-it notes, stolen lunches, and a co-worker who once brought her cat to a Zoom call for emotional support, and then made it her entire personality. But then came Jenna. Jenna was new, maybe 4 months into the job, and she came in hot. Overconfident, over-caffeinated, and very into stealing credit. She had this way of attaching herself to other people's projects just before they wrapped up, then somehow being the loudest voice in the debrief meeting. Classic move, annoying, but whatever. I'd seen worse. Then I got pregnant. I told my manager first, then HR. We set up the maternity leave timeline, did the paperwork, and I let a few close co-workers know. Jenna wasn't on the list because, frankly, I didn't trust her not to turn it into a performance. 2 weeks later, she shows up in the break room and loudly announces she's pregnant. I blinked. Okay. Weird timing, but I smiled politely, said congratulations, and tried not to make it a thing. We weren't friends, she didn't owe me details. Whatever. Except then came the emails. HR looped me in on something urgent. Turns out, Jenna had applied for extended maternity leave under my policy. My policy. That I qualified for, that my doctor signed off on. She had copied the same timeline, same forms, even my obstetrician's name. That's when everything unraveled. I called HR immediately, told them there had to be a mistake. They seemed confused too, said Jenna submitted some medical documents, but that the paperwork was incomplete. I asked to see it, and it was literally a printout of a fake email thread. No letterhead, no signature, nothing official. She'd typed it up in Google Docs and changed the font to make it look medical. I'm talking full-on DIY maternity fraud, so I asked if they were going to handle it. They said they'd look into it, which in HR language means we'll forget this ever happened unless someone lights a fire under us. So I got to work. That Friday, I overheard Jenna planning her baby shower in the break room, telling someone to make sure the cupcakes are pink and blue just in case it's twins. I stood there like, twins? You don't even have one baby. The team was organizing a whole office party, balloons, gifts, a cake with mommy-to-be on it. She was even registered on Amazon. I checked. The wish list included luxury diaper bags, a $300 baby monitor, and, I kid you not, a gold-plated pacifier. And here's where it gets absurd. I didn't shut it down. I let it happen. I let the whole thing roll forward. Decorations, invites, cupcakes and all. And on the day of the shower, I showed up with my own surprise guests. HR. I invited the entire HR team to the party. Said it was a lovely office moment, and they should be there to support a fellow employee. They came smiling, confused but smiling. Jenna was glowing, full-on fake pregnancy goddess energy, wearing a sash, accepting gifts, patting her very flat stomach like it was sacred. Then I handed HR a manila envelope. Inside was everything. Screenshots of her fake doctor's email, a printout of my own approved policy with timestamps, photos of her from the same week wearing gym clothes, sprinting on the treadmill, holding a protein shake labeled, "Not pregnant, just fit." They read in silence, and then came the breaking point. HR pulls her aside. Quiet conversation. Her smile evaporates. Her face turns the color of the pink and blue frosting. She looks over at me, not angry, just stunned, like she thought no one would ever call her bluff, and then she tries to pivot. Wait, I was going to tell you guys. I just wasn't ready to share the details. I had a miscarriage last week. One of the HR reps, bless her ice-cold soul, says, "You told us yesterday you were 6 months along." Jenna blinked, mouth opened, closed, opened again. Someone behind me whispered, "Oh, she's cooked." They walked her out mid-party. No gifts, no cupcakes, just silence and the click of her heels echoing down the hallway. HR later told me she'd been placed on administrative leave, pending further investigation. She never came back, but that wasn't even the worst part. She tried to sue for wrongful termination, claimed emotional distress, sent a 6-paragraph email to the whole company about hostile work environments, then attached a photo of her cat in a onesie saying, "This is the only baby I need." Imagine being this confidently wrong. She lost the case, obviously. And the promotion she was gunning for? Went to the intern she used to mock for bringing lunch in a cooler bag. Poetic, really. I didn't throw a party, but I did bring donuts the day the announcement went out. Labeled the box in loving memory of Jenna's promotion. I didn't need balloons. The silence was loud enough. But revenge isn't always loud. Sometimes it's one perfectly planned whisper. There's a specific kind of humiliation that hits different when it happens at work. You're dressed like a functioning adult, trying to stay professional, surrounded by colleagues and clients. And then someone decides that's the moment to publicly tear you down. Bonus points if that someone is your boss. For me, it happened at our annual client dinner, a formal event at one of those overpriced restaurants where everything smells like truffle oil and all the waiters whisper. We were there to wine and dine some major potential investors. I wore my nicest blazer. I practiced my pitch. I brought printed materials. I was ready. My boss, Eric, was not. Eric was the kind of guy who believed management was just another word for ego massage. He delegated everything to our team, took credit for our work, and then acted shocked when someone under him actually knew what they were doing. And he hated being corrected in public. So when I calmly and politely fact-checked one of his projections in front of a client, mind you, not to embarrass him, just to make sure we didn't promise something we couldn't deliver, he didn't take it well. He laughed, a big performative laugh. Then, in front of the entire table, he said, "Let's not get too bogged down in details. My name here is still learning how spreadsheets work. Bless her heart." Cue polite chuckles from the clients. Some awkward silence from my coworkers. I sat there, frozen, smile plastered to my face like a paper mask. He didn't stop there. Spent the rest of the night dropping little comments about how I meant well, but had room to grow, about how I should stick to taking notes, even asked me if I wanted him to order something easy off the menu for me. I don't even eat meat, and he ordered me steak tartare to expand my horizons. That was the breaking point. But here's where it gets satisfying. Eric didn't know that for the past few months, I'd been keeping quiet about something. Not for lack of trying. I'd flagged it to finance, but no one seemed to care, so I started documenting. See, Eric liked to file fake expense reports, tiny things mostly. A fake Uber ride here, an extra meal receipt there. He once billed the company for client gifts and bought himself a $300 watch. It wasn't hard to notice if you worked in admin, which I did at the time, but everyone assumed he was untouchable. So I made copies, scanned every sketchy receipt, highlighted every suspicious line item, cross-referenced his meetings with the calendar and Slack logs, organized it all into a neat little PDF called Eric Expense Audit, Do Not Delete, and then I waited. The morning after that dinner, I wrote an anonymous email to our legal department, attached the file, gave them the keywords to search, signed it Concerned Employee. They didn't respond, but the following week, mid-lunch on a Tuesday, 2 people from legal and 1 from HR walked into our open office space, didn't say a word, just went straight to Eric's desk and asked him to come with them. He stood up laughing, thought it was a joke. "What? Am I being arrested?" he said. They didn't laugh. He left with them. 15 minutes later, someone from HR came back and quietly asked me if I had time to talk. I said sure. They said they were following up on a complaint. Wanted to know if I had any additional context. I handed over my personal notes and the original dates of the expense report alerts I'd flagged. That was it. By Friday, he was gone. No farewell email, no goodbye drinks. Just, Eric is no longer with the company. What happened next? Nobody saw it coming. Turns out legal found way more than I did. Not just fake expenses, falsified vendor contracts, shady deals with a third-party consultant who didn't exist, and a suspiciously generous bonus he awarded himself during a budget freeze. He'd been siphoning money quietly for almost a year. The paper trail was brutal. They didn't just fire him, they pressed charges. He tried to claim ignorance, said someone else had filed the forms, but the timestamps, the logins, the payment authorizations, all him, all signed, all traced. He got escorted out of the building. HR made sure we all saw it. And here's the part I'll never forget. 2 of the same clients from that dinner, they signed with us later that month. One of them pulled me aside and said, "Smart move not correcting him harder. You let him bury himself, I didn't say anything. Just smiled. Because, yeah, sometimes the best revenge is just giving someone enough rope to hang themselves." It didn't feel like revenge, though. It felt like self-respect, like drawing a line. I didn't humiliate him. He did that to himself. I just made sure it was documented. And speaking of workplace chaos, let's talk about Karen and the HOA presidency she didn't see coming. Karen moved in across the street with the energy of someone who thought neighborhood watch was a personality trait. Within a week, she introduced herself by handing me a printed copy of our HOA bylaws, highlighted, annotated, and flagged. I wish I were kidding. I smiled, tried to be polite, thought maybe she was just one of those people who took pride in her community. That was before the complaints started. First, it was my trash bins, left on the curb 14 minutes past pickup. Then it was my grass, supposedly half an inch over the acceptable length. She reported my mailbox for having a tiny chip in the paint. My dog barked once at a squirrel. Noise violation. I put up solar lights on the walkway. Unapproved alterations. The woman was relentless, and every complaint went straight to the HOA board, which, of course, she was on. Not the president, not yet, but she might as well have been. She had the ear of every retired couple on the street and treated the bylaws like scripture. I tried to talk to her once, just casually like, "Hey Karen, if there's ever an issue, feel free to just knock. You don't have to escalate everything to a formal complaint." She blinked, tilted her head and said, "It's nothing personal. I just care about standards." Okay, but that wasn't even the worst part. Karen's house was a violations bingo card. She had a massive RV parked halfway on the lawn. Plastic flamingos and gnomes everywhere. Solar lights that blinked in rainbow colors like it was Vegas. And don't even get me started on the fake ivy wall she stuck onto her fence with zip ties. That thing had a squirrel living in it. But no one said a word, because she'd been in everyone's ears for months, scared people into silence. So I got an idea. Our HOA president at the time, Mr. Dillard, was retiring. Nice guy, old school, didn't love drama. He put out an email asking for candidates to replace him. I hit reply all and submitted my name. Karen also applied. She assumed she'd win by default, but I knew something she didn't. Everyone hated her. They just didn't want to be her next target. I made a campaign flyer that didn't even mention her by name. It just listed bullet points, asterisk less nitpicking, more community events, fair enforcement, simple stuff. Then came the breaking point. I walked around to every house in the neighborhood, knocked on doors, talked to people, heard story after story of how Karen had fined them for nonsense, reported them to the HOA, even called the city on someone for parking on their own gravel. One guy said she threatened to call CPS because his kids had sidewalk chalk on the driveway. I told him, "You vote for me and the first thing I do is reapprove chalk." He fist bumped me on the spot. Election day came. It wasn't even close. Karen stood there with her little clipboard, watching people line up and avoid eye contact. I smiled at her. She didn't smile back. I won. And suddenly the whole plan fell apart for her. First order of business, a community review of the bylaws. Turns out with a majority vote, we could amend the rules. Not remove them entirely, just tweak them to make things fair. Reasonable. So we rewrote them. No more fines unless there were 2 complaints from separate neighbors. No more aesthetic violations unless they were safety hazards. And here's the kicker. New limits on the number of lawn ornaments. Max of 3 decorative items per front yard. No blinking lights. No RVS on grass. I didn't name anyone. I didn't need to. But guess whose house was suddenly out of compliance? Karen's, the lawn gnomes, over the limit by 6. The fake ivy, considered an unapproved fence addition, the RV, violated both the lawn rule and the no vehicles over 20 feet in visible areas clause. She tried to appeal. We had a meeting. She brought charts. I brought the rule book, the one she had highlighted when she moved in. She started to argue. I said, "Karen, it's nothing personal. I just care about standards." I genuinely thought her eye was going to twitch off her face. She complied, mostly. The gnomes disappeared first. The RV moved. She tried to keep the ivy wall up until someone posted a photo of the squirrel living inside it. That sealed it. She resigned from the board a week later, started keeping to herself. Complaints stopped. People actually started talking to each other again, not just whispering about HOA drama behind closed doors. One neighbor baked me cookies, Another dropped off a thank you card with a $10 Starbucks gift card inside. But the best part? At the next board meeting, someone nominated me for another term. Karen, still a resident, still sitting in the back row, just watched and didn't say a word. You almost have to admire the audacity. She built an entire dictatorship out of lawn gnomes and bylaws, and then acted shocked when democracy showed up with a clipboard. But some stories aren't just about pettiness. They're about pure justice. Like this next one involving a fake scholarship and a very real suspension. It started with a group project, which in college is already a cursed sentence. You either get the overachiever, the ghost, the panicker, or the guy who thinks charm replaces effort. We got Liam. Liam was that last category. All confidence, no content. Day one, he introduced himself like he was auditioning for Shark Tank. Handshake, flashy grin, even had a monogrammed water bottle. Said he was on a full-ride merit scholarship, honors program, future law student. I should have known then. Week 1, he showed up late. Week 2, he didn't show up at all. Week 3, he told us he couldn't take notes during our meetings because of his condition. Didn't say what it was. Just gave us this vague, serious look and waited for the sympathy to roll in. Spoiler, it didn't. Because behind the scenes, Liam wasn't discreet. We'd be working on the project trying to salvage what little progress we had, and this guy would be sitting back laughing about how easy school was now. He'd say stuff like, "Once you get the accommodations, man, it's game over. I get triple time on exams. Professors can't say anything." I asked, once, what the condition was. He grinned and said, "Let's just say I had to get creative on the intake forms." Yeah, he'd faked a disability to get academic accommodations, and he bragged about it, constantly. Said he just copied the diagnosis from a Reddit post and knew a guy who helped him phrase the documentation so it would pass. Claimed it was just strategy. This wasn't just some jerk cheating on a test. He was abusing a system designed to protect real students, bragging about it, laughing while people with actual needs were fighting for scraps of support. I didn't say anything. Not yet. Because if Liam loved anything, it was the sound of his own voice. And I had a phone with a working voice memo app. One night after our group meeting, he stayed behind to chat business. Said he liked how cutthroat I was. Wanted to partner on a side hustle, selling AI-generated essays to freshmen. Then casually, like it was a badge of honor, he dropped the line that made my skin crawl. Honestly, the real scam was getting the scholarship. You just have to say the right buzzwords. My essay was half lies, he kept talking. I kept recording. The next day, I created a burner Gmail, attached the audio file, and sent it to 3 places: the University Disability Services Office, the Academic Integrity Board, and the Scholarship Foundation. No signature, no name, just a subject line that said, "You'll want to hear this." And then I waited. A week later, Liam walked into class looking like someone had taken the air out of him. No flashy entrance, no water bottle, no swagger. Just pale silence. Turns out they took it seriously, and here's where it gets absurd. Not only did he lose the scholarship, they found multiple fabricated claims in his admissions file. He'd lied about volunteer hours, about letters of recommendation, even photoshopped a medical form. He was placed on academic probation pending a full investigation, which meant he couldn't register for next semester's classes. Oh, and because he was in the honors dorms, specifically because of the scholarship, he got booted from housing too. One of my friends in student services texted me, "Your boy's moving out with a trash bag full of sneakers." It's giving karma in HD, but that wasn't even the worst part. Apparently, the recording also got passed to his high school guidance counselor, who had originally written him a glowing recommendation. She was furious, said she felt personally betrayed, started emailing the colleges he'd applied to as a backup, just in case he tried to transfer and pull the same stunt somewhere else. He didn't show up to our last presentation. We had to finish the project without him, which, ironically, was the best work we'd done all semester. Final grade, a minus. I'd have preferred an A, but the real grade came later. 3 months after the semester ended, someone in student government sent me a screenshot of a policy change. The Scholarship Foundation added a new clause requiring an in-person interview for all finalists, with verification steps. They cited recent abuse as the reason. Liam's name wasn't mentioned, but his ghost was all over it. You know what got me the most? The silence, no big blow-up, no confrontation. Just one quiet email, one voice recording, and the sound of someone's ego collapsing under its own weight. He thought he was gaming the system. He didn't realize the system had receipts. I genuinely thought this couldn't get worse. I was wrong. For him, and on the topic of fake identities, next story. A catfish gets cooked. It started the way too many heartbreaks do, with a doctor in someone's DMs. My best friend Ella had just gotten out of a rough breakup, so when this guy messaged her on a dating app with golden retriever energy and a profile that screamed respectable adult, she was cautiously optimistic. He said his name was Jake, pediatric surgeon, worked long shifts, had a dog named Milo, and just wanted something real. Red flag, he only ever sent 1 or 2 photos, said he was camera shy, that should have been it. But Ella really wanted to believe it was finally her turn to get lucky. And at first, it seemed legit. He called her on the phone, deep voice, charming, said all the right things. Never FaceTimed though, always an excuse. Bad Wi-Fi, night shifts, hospital rules, and Ella, being the kind soul she is, didn't press, because people should be given grace, right? That grace ran out around month 3. They were exclusive. He still hadn't met her in person, still hadn't video called. Sent her flowers once, from a local florist, yes, but under a completely different name. That's when she asked me to dig. I reverse searched his photos. Found 2 of them on Pinterest boards titled, Hot Male Models You'll Never Meet. I ran his phone number through a spam directory. Came back flagged. And that hospital he said he worked at? They'd never heard of a doctor. Jake, I showed her everything. She cried for hours. And then she asked me the most dangerous question. Do you want to help me ruin his life? That's when the real story started. Me, Ella, and our friend group, 5 women, 1 group chat, and too much free time, decided that if Jake wanted to play games, we'd show him what the full multiplayer experience felt like. We created a fake account. Not just any fake, we built a whole fake influencer. Her name was Lexi. She was an aspiring fitness creator, lived in the same city as Jake, and had a decent enough following to make his ego bite. We spent days building it. Pulled content from royalty-free image libraries, added fake captions, made short videos with AI-generated voiceovers. Her whole vibe was curated, hot, and just low effort enough to seem real. And then we matched with him. He messaged Lexi within 2 hours. It was wild how quickly he fell into the same pattern. Same compliments, same, I work late at the hospital, same dog. He even sent the same photo he sent Ella, the one that we already knew was fake. But that wasn't even the worst part. He started telling Lexi about this crazy ex who was obsessed with ruining his life, claimed she was making up lies, said she couldn't handle rejection. The ex? Ella. He was rewriting reality in real time and telling it to us. That's when we decided to live stream the takedown. We baited him into a meetup, a casual coffee date, at a popular outdoor cafe downtown. Lexi said she wanted to meet in person, bring him on her permis. What I ate this week, vlog, maybe do a collab. He agreed instantly. He showed up in real life, wearing scrubs. Let me repeat that. This man showed up in scrubs, trying to pass himself off as a surgeon, presumably thinking it made him hotter. That's when Ella walked out, camera in hand, filming. He froze, looked at her, looked at the camera, looked back at Lexi, who was now just our friend Zara holding a phone with the TikTok live screen up and 1,000 people watching within 2 minutes. Ella said, "Hey Jake," or should I say Chris, pediatric surgeon from nowhere. Want to explain to your fans why you told me you love me while simultaneously calling me your stalker? He tried to deny everything, said she was crazy, said it was all a prank, but we had screenshots, cool logs, the fake florist receipt, the name on the PayPal account from the flowers, Chris, real name, real address, real dumb move, and suddenly the whole plan fell apart, for him, because that video, it went insanely viral. TikTok ate it up like it was free popcorn. Within 24 hours, it hit 1 million views. By day 3, it was being covered on That Cheating Carty page on Instagram and had a Reddit thread titled, "This guy catfished 2 women and got cooked on live." The comment section was ruthless. People started digging, found his LinkedIn, found his real job, assistant manager at a gym, found his real girlfriend, who had no idea he'd been pretending to be a surgeon. She dumped him publicly in a comment under the video. Said, "We've been together for 2 years. I'm going to be sick." Corporate HR got involved. Apparently his company didn't love being tagged in videos where their employee was being called a manipulative, lying predator. He got fired by the end of the week. Last we heard, he tried to message another woman in Ella's DMs, but she responded with a screenshot of the viral video and the caption, "This you?" He blocked her immediately. You almost have to admire the commitment, not to the lie, but to the idea that you can get away with it in 2025, when literally everything has a camera and a screenshot button. This wasn't just karma. This was karma with lighting, a soundtrack, and a trending hashtag. But not all heartbreaks end in public humiliation. Some end in jail. Just wait till you hear how one woman got her stalker arrested, using IKEA. The weirdest thing was how normal it all started. A package here, a text there. Stuff you could almost write off as coincidence if you weren't paying close attention. But I was. Because it had been 3 months since I dumped Tyler, and I knew exactly what kind of energy he brought into the world. The "I'll ruin your life before I let you move on" kind. The breakup was messy. He didn't take it well. Accused me of cheating. I wasn't. Said I'd regret this forever, and then sobbed on my doorstep while playing our playlist from his car speakers. At 2 a.m. in the rain, like a sad, off-brand rom-com villain. I blocked his number, locked down all my socials, even got a temporary restraining order. But somehow, the universe didn't get the memo. The first package came a week later. It was a box of Swedish fish. No note, just candy. Creepy but not threatening, except I hate Swedish fish. Tyler knew that. It was a petty jab and the start of a game I didn't want to play. The second box was worse, my favorite brand of shampoo, in a bundle pack. The exact one I kept in the shower when we lived together. And I hadn't told anyone about switching to a new brand. Not even my friends. That's when I knew. He was watching. I checked my windows, my locks, my credit cards. Nothing out of place. No signs of hacking, but every few days another gift would show up. A keychain I'd lost last year, a playlist CD, a scarf I left at his house months ago. It wasn't romantic, it was psychological warfare. And I was done. So I made a plan, a truly unhinged IKEA-fueled plan. Step 1, fake address. I rented a small, fully empty unit in the same building my cousin manages. We staged it like I lived there. Nothing fancy, just returns from IKEA that we assembled fast. A bed, a bookshelf, a few framed photos of me and my friends. Yes, I printed them just for this. Clothes I didn't wear anymore, all of it curated to look lived in, but not loved. Step 2, bait. I reactivated an old email and texted Tyler from a burner number. "Hey, it's me. I'm staying at my cousin's place for a bit. I just need space. Please don't tell anyone." 2 hours later, someone buzzed the fake apartment from the front door. Didn't say a word, just waited. We didn't answer, but we did check the hallway camera the building had installed last year, and guess who casually strolled by the door 15 minutes later? Tyler, hoodie up, hat low, staring right into the peephole. That's when everything unraveled. Step 3, trap. My brother, bless his very lawful soul, is a cop. He can't bend rules, but he can follow them with surgical precision. We installed a GPS tracker in a fake purse I left by the door. Inside it, a camera pen, activated, recording. Tucked next to the fake keys, the goal, let him think I was careless, that I was just out for a walk, that he could sneak in, do whatever weird ritual he had planned, and leave without consequence. He broke in 3 nights later, picked the lock, took the bait, started rummaging through drawers like he was looking for something specific, paused at the fake journals we planted, took one, sat on the bed and sniffed the pillow. Yeah, I wish I was making that up. Then came the breaking point. He opened the purse, dug around, pulled out the keys. We caught every second on the camera pen, the moment his expression changed, the way he suddenly froze, and then his attempt to tuck the tracker back in like it hadn't happened. That's when my brother knocked, not kicked, not shouted, just knocked. 3 calm knocks, then flashed his badge through the peephole before Tyler could even reach the door. Tyler tried to lie, said he was there by invitation, said I told him to stop by, but the camera didn't lie. Neither did the texts we saved. And, oh, right, breaking and entering while holding someone else's house key and GPS tracker? Not exactly a good look. He was arrested on the spot. Charges included trespassing, stalking, and violation of the restraining order. The evidence? Flawless, recorded, packaged. Handed over in a literal manila folder labeled Operation IKEA. You know what the judge said when they saw the video? IKEA furniture's not the only thing you assembled impressively here. No lie. That's a direct quote. Tyler pled guilty. Got probation, mandatory therapy, and an extended restraining order that spans multiple counties now. His parents tried to defend him, said he was just heartbroken. I said heartbreak doesn't come with a GPS tracker. And the best part? I got to keep the fake apartment set up. It's now my reading nook. The bed's too firm, but the energy? Immaculate. From stalkers to scammers, the next story involves fake friends, real money, and the pettiest revenge imaginable. She told me it was for rent. My landlord's being insane, she said. We're about to get evicted if I don't pay by Friday. And of course, I believed her, because this was Mara, my best friend since middle school. The girl who held my hair during high school parties, brought me soup when I had the flu, and cried with me the night my dad passed. If she needed help, I wasn't going to ask a million questions. So I wired her $5,000, no paperwork, no interest rate. Just a note that said, pay me back when you can, followed by 2 heart emojis. That was 6 months ago, and for a while I didn't think much of it. Life gets busy, money is awkward to bring up, and I figured she'd loop back around when she was ready. She didn't. Then came the Instagram post, a gorgeous, over-filtered photo of Mara and her fiancé on a beach in Tulum. Her caption, "Can't believe I get to marry my soulmate in paradise." The location was tagged, so was the resort. I stared at the screen like it had personally slapped me, because I had just worked 14 days straight, covering back-to-back shifts to pay off my own bills. Meanwhile, she was sipping cocktails with a rented photographer and probably using my money for the minibar. But that wasn't even the worst part. I clicked through the rest of her story. There was a video, a pan of her bridal suite, her dress hanging in the background, captioned, "Can't wait to wear this beauty." Except that dress was in my house, because Mara had left it at my apartment 6 months ago, claiming her place was too cramped to store it. I hadn't thought much of it at the time, just stuck it in a garment bag and shoved it in my coat closet. Until now. That was the breaking point. I didn't call her, didn't text, didn't even confront her. I just logged into my Poshmark account and took the dress out of storage. It was a brand name gown, designer label, still had the tag. She told me she'd found it on clearance, but after one quick reverse image search, I learned she was lying again. This thing retailed for $4,700. So I posted it. High quality pics, honest description, lightly used, never worn. Priced it just under market value to sell fast. And then I tagged her, not aggressively, just a little at mention buried in the comments of the listing. Thanks for trusting me to store this. Hope the beach wedding is worth it. Within 2 hours, my phone blew up. Texts, missed calls, voice notes from Mara, flipping between furious and fake sweet, like she couldn't decide what would guilt me more. One message actually said, "I was going to pay you back after the honeymoon. Can't believe you'd do this to me." Oh, so now she had a plan? Sorry, this isn't a honeymoon registry. I ignored the calls, but I did respond with one message, a screenshot of the dress listing, now marked sold, followed by a second screenshot of a Venmo transfer for $5,000, minus shipping and seller fees. Payment received, I wrote. I genuinely thought that would be the end of it, but Mara being Mara, decided to go nuclear. She blasted me on Facebook, said I was jealous, vindictive, trying to ruin her big day, claimed I'd stolen the dress, posted a crying selfie and everything, the whole wedding pity party, except her plan backfired spectacularly, because when people asked questions, she couldn't explain the $5,000 loan, couldn't justify why she'd leave a dress at my house for half a year if I wasn't trustworthy, and definitely couldn't defend why her rent emergency conveniently lined up with her destination wedding deposit. Oh, and turns out she'd borrowed money from 2 other people as well, including one bridesmaid. Yikes, they all bailed, so did her maid of honor. She ended up walking down the aisle with her cousin and a group of rental bridesmaids from a local agency. Yes, that's a real thing. I looked it up, and her photographer cancelled last minute after hearing the drama. The guy she hired to replace him had one of those watermark apps that slaps a giant proof label across all the pictures. She posted them anyway. Honestly, you almost have to admire the delusion. She never spoke to me again. But her now husband reached out a few weeks later to apologize, said he had no idea she'd lied, and that if it were up to him, I'd be in the wedding, not deleted from it. I told him to check his credit card statements, just in case. I genuinely didn't want revenge. I just wanted my money back. But watching her burn every bridge she had, with a white veil and a selfie stick, was not unsatisfying. The best part? The buyer of the dress messaged me later, said she'd fallen in love with it, sent me photos from her elopement in the mountains. She looks stunning, happy, authentic, unlike Mara. And let's take a break from weddings. Next up, an entitled co-worker, a broken microwave, and one perfect petty trap. Susan wasn't evil. She wasn't mean or lazy, or even that hard to work with. She was just Susan, which, in our office, had become a personality category all on its own. Because when someone says, "Oh, that's such a Susan thing," it usually means something like microwaving salmon at 9:07 a.m. in an open concept office, with no windows, every single day. We had a sign, several actually. "No fish in the microwave," written in Comic Sans, laminated and taped up like a desperate cry for nasal help. We tried polite post-its, group Slack reminders, even subtle air fresheners placed strategically near the microwave. Didn't matter. Susan would come in with her little Pyrex container, set the office ablaze with the stench of lemon dill death, and then giggle about it. "I just love meal prepping," she'd chirp, while our eyes watered like we'd been tear-gassed. And the worst part, she'd sit right by the microwave, so she couldn't even pretend she didn't notice how bad it was. She just didn't care. At first, I tried to let it go, told myself to be mature. I mean, it's just food, right? But by month 3 of Oda Fishmonger Mondays, something in me snapped, especially after a new client came in, looked around and said, "Do you guys work above a seafood market?" So I decided if Susan was going to keep nuking the ocean, I was going to nuke Susan's habits. I didn't confront her. I didn't ask HR for help because, fun fact, Susan was HR. Yep, you can't make this stuff up. But what I did do was write a report. It was an entirely fictional, vaguely scientific-looking memo titled "Preliminary Concerns Regarding Mercury Vapor Release in Enclosed Cooking Environments." I borrowed some language from actual academic journals, threw in a couple of ominous words like neurological degradation and corporate liability, and printed it on thick paper. Then I casually left it on our manager's desk. No name, no signature, just a cover page and the terrifying implication that our break room microwave was slowly poisoning the entire office. And here's where it gets absurd. Our manager, bless his panic-prone soul, believed it. He called a meeting, he read portions of the memo aloud, and he ended it with, "Until we can confirm safety measures, I think it's best to avoid microwaving any high-risk proteins, just to be safe." High risk proteins. You could practically hear the collective sigh of relief, except from Susan, because she knew that memo was about her. You could see it in the way she clutched her Tupperware like it was a hostage. But that wasn't even the worst part. The next day, she brought tuna, and looked me dead in the eyes while punching in 3 minutes on the microwave. 3 full minutes. That's when everything unraveled. See, what I hadn't accounted for was Susan's insistence on being difficult. She escalated, started microwaving different fish, trout, sardines, even mackerel once, which I didn't even know people ate on purpose. So I escalated too. I took my fake report and added a second page, one that claimed long-term exposure to mercury vapor could impact memory, decision-making, and, this is real, ethical judgment. Left that one on the CFO's desk, and then I waited. The following Monday, we all got a company-wide email about temporary departmental shifts due to workspace concerns. Susan apparently was being reassigned to the satellite office across town, the one next to the sushi restaurant. Ironic? Yes. Intentional? Probably not. Still, poetic. She packed up her desk like someone being banished from the bachelor mansion. A few co-workers gave her awkward side hugs. I offered a tight smile and said, "Good luck out there," She didn't respond. And here's the kicker. Within a week of her departure, office morale skyrocketed. Someone brought in fresh bagels. We got a new microwave. The air smelled like nothing, and it was glorious. I never admitted what I did. No one asked. But one of our interns did whisper, "I think you saved us," while restocking the fridge with LaCroix. Maybe I did. You almost have to admire the chain of chaos that led to a fake science report becoming company policy. But hey, not all heroes wear capes. Some just know how to weaponize a printer and passive aggression. Now wait till you hear what happens when a neighbor steals someone's Wi-Fi. It started with lag. Not just the Netflix won't buffer kind of lag, the kind that makes Zoom calls sound like a robot having a stroke. At first, I blamed my ISP, rebooted the router, checked the cables, sacrificed a USB stick to the tech gods. Nothing helped. Then one night I was poking around the admin panel of my router, just out of sheer frustration, and I saw something that made me pause. There were 8 devices connected. I live alone. I own exactly 3 internet-connected things. And one of those is a toaster with Bluetooth I regret buying. So unless my toaster suddenly grew a taste for Spotify, something was very, very wrong. I clicked through the list, phone names, device IDs, and then Lisa's iPhone. I don't know a Lisa, but I do know that the woman 2 apartments over, the one who once screamed at the mailman for stepping on her doormat, has a daughter named Lisa who visits every weekend. And just like that, the mystery unraveled. Someone was stealing my Wi-Fi. I could have just kicked them off the network, changed the password, called it a day. But if you've been freeloading off my internet for weeks, and I'm the one paying for it, I'm going to have a little fun first. So I renamed the Wi-Fi from Home Network 7 to Police Surveillance Van 3. You would not believe how fast 2 of the devices disconnected, but I wasn't done. Next step, content filtering. Using the router's parental control tools, I blocked access to every website except one. One single web page. Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up, on loop, forever. So now, if Lisa, or anyone else mooching off my bandwidth, tried to load Instagram, they got rickrolled instead. Spotify, rickrolled. YouTube, ricked. Even better, I changed the login redirect page so that any attempt to reconnect showed a message. Greater than unauthorized access detected. Your IP has been logged. Law enforcement has been notified. Totally fake, but very effective. That night, I sat back with popcorn and waited. Around 11 p.m., I heard the unmistakable sound of someone stomping in the hallway, followed by a muffled, greater than, "Mom, the Wi-Fi's broken again." The next morning, every unknown device was gone. Not just disconnected, completely removed from the network. But that wasn't even the worst part. The next week, I saw the mom, Karen, because, of course, trying to ask the building manager if she could file a complaint about electromagnetic interference. She claimed someone was jamming her signal. I nearly choked on my coffee. This woman was so convinced that she had some God-given right to my Wi-Fi that when it stopped working, she didn't think, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't be stealing it." No, she decided the building was sabotaging her. Imagine being this confidently wrong. Then came the breaking point. A few days later, a paper sign appeared in the lobby, taped to the bulletin board. It read, "Greater than, if anyone is tampering with others' wireless networks, stop." This is a criminal offense and has been reported. It wasn't signed, but someone had circled the words tampering and scribbled felony next to it in red Sharpie. I don't know if she thought the FBI runs on Comcast, but I do know she never got back on my network again. Just for fun, I kept the Rickroll trap live for another week. Not that it mattered. The bandwidth was back to normal. My calls stopped glitching. The toaster still doesn't work, but that's a separate problem. And here's the part that really gets me. Not once did she try to ask for access. Not when she moved in. Not when her daughter visited. She just took it, like it was free air. So, yeah, I gave her a taste of hell. And if she ever dares to connect again, well, let's just say I've got a whole playlist ready. From Rickrolls to Rolls Royces, not all revenge is cheap, especially when inheritance is on the line. My grandfather was the kind of man who built his life from nothing. Grew up in a 1-bedroom house with 4 siblings, fought in a war, started a business, and somehow, despite everything, never became bitter. He was kind, sharp, quiet in the way only people who've seen real chaos can be. And before he passed, he made one thing very clear to me and my sister. When I go, I want everything split equally between you two. No fighting, no drama, no greed. It was written into the will, stated in conversations, even notarized in a folder labeled, "After I'm gone." So naturally, the moment he passed, my sister went full Disney villain. I should have seen it coming. Growing up, she always had this ability to twist the story until she looked like the hero. If she broke a vase, I pushed her into it. If she failed a class, it was because my successes stressed her out, that kind of person. But I never imagined she'd stoop this low. Less than a week after the funeral, she tells me she already spoke to the lawyer and that Grandpa left everything to her because she was the one who visited the most. I blinked, because not only was that not true, I was the one taking him to doctor's appointments, managing his meds, helping him clean, but she also had the nerve to say it with this smug, passive-aggressive smile. You know the one, the you can't prove anything smile. Turns out she'd forged a second version of the will, dated 2 months before his death. It was fake, badly formatted, but just convincing enough to stall everything in probate for almost a year. And during that time, she drained the estate, liquidated the assets, sold his classic car, cleaned out his bank account, even pawned off his medals, all while I was fighting to prove the original will was valid. And here's the part that really gutted me. She didn't need the money. She and her husband had decent jobs. They weren't struggling. She just wanted more. Eventually, I got a small payout after legal fees, but by then, most of it was gone. She won. And I let it go. Not because I forgave her, but because I refused to let her greed consume my life. For a while, that was the end of it, until about 5 years later, when Karma showed up wearing a for sale sign. I'd done well for myself, started a business, lived below my means, and ended up in a position where I could buy a home in cash. I wasn't actively looking, but one day, out of sheer curiosity, I searched a few listings from back in our hometown, and there it was. Her dream house, this obnoxious white colonial with blue shutters and wraparound porch. She used to show it to me all the time growing up, like it was some kind of personal Pinterest board. She even tried to tour it once as a teenager, just to feel the vibes. The listing said the current owners were divorcing and needed to sell fast. It was underpriced, and more importantly, she didn't know it was on the market yet. So I called the agent that afternoon, made a cash offer, and signed the paperwork by the end of the week. I didn't buy it to flip. I didn't even buy it to live in. I bought it because some part of me, the part she tried to erase, needed a win. But that wasn't even the worst part. After the sale closed, she finally found out it had been sold. And oh, she was furious. I got a voicemail at 1 a.m. That honestly sounded like a Shakespearean meltdown. Crying, screaming. At one point, she accused me of emotionally assassinating her future. I mean, what does that even mean? But here's where it gets absurd. She begged me to sell it to her. Said it was her destiny, that she'd been through enough. I said no. Then she offered to buy it above market price. Still no. Then she tried guilt. Said Grandpa would have wanted us to share blessings. Yeah, no. Because this was never about the house. It was about watching her finally realize that the world doesn't revolve around her manipulations. That's when everything unraveled. She tried to weaponize our extended family, claiming I stole her legacy. But most of them had already seen what she did with the inheritance, and weren't exactly eager to take her side again. So I leaned all the way in. I leased the house to a local dog rescue. They set up an outdoor play area, added ramps inside, and started hosting weekly adoption events on the very porch she once dreamt of decorating with hydrangeas. Every time she drives past, she sees 12 German shepherds running across her old fantasy. One of them's named Lucky, which somehow makes it funnier. You almost have to admire the audacity. She stole my inheritance and still tried to spin herself as the victim. But here's the thing about long games. They don't always feel satisfying in the moment. But when they land, they land. And every time I drive by that house, I don't think about what I lost. I think about everything I gained when I stopped letting her write the story. And if you're still standing after that one, the next revenge comes from a place no one expects. A child's spelling bee. 5th grade me never stood a chance. The spelling bee was supposed to be my moment. I'd practiced for weeks. Flashcards, mock rounds with my parents, the whole 9 yards. Words like onomatopoeia and diaphanous were my playground. I wasn't just confident, I was ready. And then there was Kyle. Kyle was the kind of kid who peaked in elementary school. Loud, popular, spent more time passing notes than doing homework, but somehow always got the lead in school plays. Probably because his mum was PTA royalty and his teacher. Well, she practically worshipped him. So when we both made it to the final round of the bee, I wasn't surprised. I was surprised though when the teacher, let's call her Mrs. D, gave Kyle this almost imperceptible nod before he stepped up to the mic. And I swear to you, swear, she mouthed the word to him. The word was consequences, which is ironic, considering what happened next. He spells it flawlessly. Like, no hesitation. And let me remind you, this kid thought Pharaoh started with an F the day before. I get the next word. Surveillance. I nail it. Then comes the final round. Kyle gets chrysanthemum. He pauses, looks at Mrs. D. Another nod. Another miracle. He wins. And the worst part? Everyone clapped like it was some Disney Channel underdog moment. I just stood there, trophyless, humiliated and fuming. But that wasn't even the worst part. A week later, during recess, Kyle saunters up to me, trophy in hand, and says, "Some people are just meant to win, I guess." I was 10. I didn't have the vocabulary to call him a manipulative little weasel, so I just said nothing. But I made a promise to myself that day. One day, Kyle would learn how to spell consequences. Fast forward 10 years. I'm fresh out of college and I land a teaching assistant position at my old elementary school while finishing my master's in education. And guess who's still around? Mrs. D. Same haircut, same smug energy, now a department head. Kyle, he's a senior at the nearby high school, but he's part of a tutoring program that has him come back to the elementary school once a week to mentor younger students. Because of course he is. At first, I'm tempted to just let it go. Be the bigger person, that kind of thing. But then I start noticing something weird. Some of the kids Kyle mentors, they start turning in essays with suspiciously high-level vocabulary, like borderline plagiarized. One kid straight up copied a college essay off Reddit. When I ask how he wrote it, he shrugs and says, "Kyle told me it was okay." So I start digging, and what do I find? Kyle is giving these kids pre-written essays and telling them to just change the name and the title. He's literally teaching children how to cheat. This is where patience finally snapped. I document everything, screenshots, copies of the essays, even an audio recording of Kyle casually bragging to another tutor about how these kids are too dumb to get caught anyway. I put together a report and hand it to the principal. But here's where it gets beautiful. The principal calls in Kyle for a formal review, and I get to sit in as a witness. At one point, the principal looks at Kyle and says, "You've violated the academic integrity policy on multiple levels. Do you have anything to say for yourself?" Kyle shrugs, still cocky, still thinks his charm's gonna bail him out. So I look him in the eye and say, "You should have learned how to spell consequences." He freezes, and I watch in real time as it clicks. He remembers. The spelling bee, the trophy, the smirk. The principal doesn't get it, but that moment, that's mine. He ends up getting banned from all mentoring programs, loses his college recommendation letter from the school, and has to take an academic dishonesty seminar just to graduate. But the cherry on top? The following year, when his little sister enters the spelling bee, she gets out in round 1. On the word karma, you almost have to admire the symmetry. And some people say there's no justice in the world. Anyway, some people just never learn, which brings us to a story about a lying manager, a fake health scare, and sweet digital karma. At first, we all felt awful for her. My manager, let's call her Rachel, came into the office one Monday looking pale, shaky, and clearly emotional. She pulled our team aside and said she'd just been diagnosed with cancer. Stage 2. She didn't get into specifics and no one pushed her. I mean, what kind of monster question's that? We gave her all the grace. Her workload was split among the rest of us. People brought her homemade meals. A few even donated PTO so she could take time off for treatment days. She said she still tried to show up when she could. She was just so strong, you know. "Work gives me purpose," she'd say, with a sad little smile. And she really leaned into that narrative. We had this team group chat where she'd post motivational quotes and updates from her oncologist. Stuff like tough day today, but I'm not letting this beat me, and chemo round 3. Let's go! For the first few weeks, we were all in. But then, things start to feel off. One Friday afternoon, I ran into Rachel at the grocery store, and not just ran into her. I passed her in the checkout line, laughing on the phone and holding wine, sushi, and pre-workout powder. She didn't see me, but I definitely saw her, and she looked great. Hair shiny, skin glowing. Definitely not the kind of person who just finished chemo. Still, I brushed it off. Maybe she was having a good day? Maybe the treatment was mild? I didn't want to be that person, doubting someone's illness just because they weren't visibly falling apart. But then came the gym incident. One of my friends from college works as a fitness instructor, and she texts me one day like, "Hey, is your boss the chick who teaches the Monday HIIT class at 6 a.m.? Because she just told everyone in my spin class that her cancer story gets her out of board meetings." That was when my internal alarm went from vibe check to DEFCON 1, because this wasn't just someone leaning on a real diagnosis for flexibility. This was starting to look like a full-on con. Still, I wanted to be absolutely sure before I did anything. So I started looking at the details. Her sick days, always perfectly aligned with monthly reports. Her hospital appointments, always between 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. Prime end-of-day checkout time. And her energy levels, let's just say she had enough in her worst weeks to post Instagram stories from a rooftop bar and tag herself at hot yoga. And here's where it gets absurd. One day she forwards an update from her doctor to our whole team, meant to be touching and emotional, but she forgets to remove the metadata. The email wasn't forwarded, it was created, on her personal Gmail, 30 minutes earlier. She literally wrote a fake doctor letter about her own cancer and forgot to change the sender line. I started screen capping everything. Group chat messages, Instagram stories, gym class check-ins, even one wild photo someone posted of her at a weekend music festival in full rave gear, just days after she said she was too weak to walk. But the final nail in the coffin? She left her office unlocked one day. I was dropping off her mail when I saw a bill sticking out from her desk drawer. I wasn't going to look, but the heading caught my eye. Plastic Surgery Associates, follow-up consultation. Curiosity fully activated, I took a photo of the visible part. 2 more bills underneath, both for cosmetic procedures. One for Botox, one for a post-op compression garment. Let me be clear, I don't care if someone gets Botox. Live your best life. But don't use fake cancer to dodge work and guilt-trip your employees while you're getting a tummy tuck. That's when everything unraveled. I compiled everything. Screenshots, emails, photos, her gym instructor's statement, even timestamps on her stories versus the hours she claimed to be in chemo. And then I sent it to HR. Anonymous email. No name. Just a folder of organized receipts and one line. Greater than, you might want to ask Rachel about her treatment plan. The team deserves better. A week later, HR sends out a mandatory team meeting invite. Rachel's name isn't on it. The director shows up. Tight smile, clearly trying to keep it professional. Then he says, "Hi everyone. As of today, Rachel is no longer with the company. We understand there may be questions regarding recent absences. We want to assure you this matter has been addressed appropriately, and we're deeply sorry for the breach of trust." That wasn't even the best part. An hour after the meeting, the entire company got an email from HR. A company-wide email. It didn't name her directly, but it said, "We have become aware of a false medical claim that resulted in inappropriate use of company time, resources, and team member generosity. Moving forward, any such misconduct will result in immediate termination and blacklisting, from future employment blacklisting." They really said, "You will never work in this town again." And I can't lie, seeing that felt like poetic justice. She lied about having cancer to avoid work and soak up sympathy, and ended up nuking her own career. Corporate speedrun, easy mode, imagine being that confidently wrong. Yeah, and if you thought that was wild, wait until you hear about the guy who tried to ghost his own breakup and got turned into small-town folklore. We were together for almost a year. Not casual dating, not we hang out sometimes. An actual relationship. Sunday brunches, meeting as friends, good morning texts, sharing Netflix passwords, the whole deal. I met his mum. He had a toothbrush at my place. Then, one Tuesday, he just vanished. No text, no, "we need to talk." Just poof. One day we were planning a weekend trip, and the next he was a ghost. Calls went straight to voicemail, messages left on read. And the worst part? I could still see him active on Instagram, just ignoring me. And let me be clear, I didn't immediately go full vengeance mode. I waited. I worried something happened to him. I reached out to a mutual friend who casually said, "Oh yeah, I saw him at that new brewery last night. Looked fine to me, so yeah." He was alive, just actively choosing to pretend I didn't exist. That was when the heartbreak turned into rage. Ghosting is cruel enough when you've gone on 2 dates and one of them involved tacos. But after a year, that's not ghosting. That's emotional cowardice with a Wi-Fi signal. And then came the breaking point. A week after he dropped off the face of the earth, I saw him walking out of the gym like nothing had happened. Just chatting on the phone, earbuds in, laughing. And I realized this guy was never going to give me closure. Never apologize. Never acknowledge me. So I gave myself closure. In the form of about 75 missing posters. I pulled up one of the nicest pictures I had of him, taken at a pumpkin patch of all places. Great lighting, full smile, holding a cider. I added some dramatic grayscale contrast to make it feel extra lost dog energy. Then I added the text, greater than missing 6 feet 1 inch, last seen saying he was really into this. Answers to coward. If found, do not contact me. He is fully capable of using a phone. Reward, closure, not offered. Then I printed them out at the office using the color printer because at least someone had to pay for my pain. Next, I scoped out locations. The gym. The Starbucks he always hit on the way to work. The parking garage near his office. His actual office building bulletin board. I even stuck one on the light pole next to his apartment. I wasn't subtle about it. I wore sunglasses and a hoodie like I was in a spy movie, even though no one cared, except this one guy walking his dog who nodded at me like, "You good?" I just nodded back and kept stapling. It took about an hour before the text started rolling in. Did you post something downtown? Dude, did you really put up missing posters? Brother, what did he do? Turns out a few of our mutual friends, and more than a few strangers, thought it was hilarious. One girl said it was the single most passive-aggressive masterpiece she'd ever seen. But that wasn't even the worst part, for him. Apparently, someone from his job saw the poster outside the building and brought it up during their morning meeting as a joke. "Hey, anyone seen this guy? Says he went missing after emotionally ghosting someone. He tried to play it cool. Said it was a weird ex being dramatic. But here's the thing. His co-workers like me. We'd hung out at a few happy hours, and at least 2 of them knew the truth. So what started as a funny office moment turned into a full-on roast session. By lunch, they'd made more posters. They printed them out, wrote fake updates like, "Still missing, reward increased to a sliver of dignity," and put them around the break room. His manager eventually told them to stop because it was disrupting morale, which honestly is the most iconic HR sentence I've ever heard. And suddenly, the whole plan fell apart. For him. He tried texting me. First message, real mature. Then, "You embarrassed me at work." Finally, "Can we just talk?" I didn't respond, not because I was being petty, but because the whole point was that he had the opportunity to talk, to explain, to act like a grown-up, and he chose to disappear. So now he knows what that feels like. You almost have to admire the irony. The guy who ghosted got publicly haunted. Oh, and I did eventually take the posters down, except for one. That one I framed. It hangs in my entryway now, a little reminder that closure isn't always about conversation. Sometimes it's about catharsis and a really good printer. And that brings us to our final story of the night. It's not loud, it's not petty, but trust me, it's the kind of revenge that lingers, like soft justice, wrapped in peace and perfect timing. He told me I'd never make it without him. He didn't say it in a movie villain way. No dramatic thunderclap, no glass of wine swirled ominously in his hand. Just a shrug, like a fact. "You'll be back. You always need someone." It wasn't even during a fight. It was after the fight when I was packing a duffel bag and grabbing my charger off the nightstand. My eyes were puffy, my heart was cracked clean down the center, and I still remember how cold his voice was. Like he wasn't even sad, just smug. At the time, I didn't say anything back, just zipped the bag and left. And here's the thing, he wasn't entirely wrong. At that point, I did need people. I needed friends to crash with. I needed my mum to Venmo me for groceries. I needed my coworker to cover for me while I cried in the bathroom. But that's not weakness. That's healing. I didn't go off the grid and start a lifestyle brand or whatever. I just got quiet, took care of myself in ways I hadn't in years, started therapy, drank water, set actual alarms, deleted his Spotify playlist and made my own. And slowly, the days didn't feel like survival. They started to feel like mine. I got a promotion at work. I cut my hair. I bought a jacket that made me feel like a Marvel character in a boardroom. I stopped apologizing in emails for things that weren't my fault. And then came the moment I didn't know I'd been waiting for. 2 years later, a networking mixer in a hotel ballroom with bad lighting and good charcuterie. I was standing by the coffee station refilling my decaf when I heard someone say my name. I turned, and there he was. Same smirk, same tailored coat, same expensive watch he always bragged about. But this time, something was different. I was different. He blinked, like he wasn't sure it was really me. I don't know what he expected. Tears, bitterness, some look what you missed out on speech. Instead, I just smiled. Not a sarcastic smile, not a fake one. A quiet, peaceful smile. And I walked right past him. I didn't need to say anything. I didn't need to post a glow-up montage or throw shade on Instagram. I didn't need to prove him wrong, because I already had. He told me I'd never make it without him. So I did. Silently. You almost have to admire the poetry. No yelling, no revenge plot, no viral TikTok. Just a quiet rebuild. A life that doesn't include him. A version of me he'll never get access to again. And I know he wanted to say something. He opened his mouth, hesitated, then just watched me disappear into the crowd, the same way I once watched him disappear from my life. Only this time, I wasn't the one hurting. That's all for tonight's tales of sweet, chaotic, and sometimes fiery justice. If you've made it this far into the chaos, thank you for being here. Let the drama fade, let your mind rest. Sweet dreams, everyone, and remember, sometimes the best revenge is just moving on.